How we feeling? Race morning.
A little stuffy. It is cold, but not that cold because it's not that humid here. So it's pretty nice. Feel good. Feel ready to race. I woke up full of energy. Got both bathroom breaks out of the way before we left the house, so hopefully don't have to use a porta-john. And the engine feels warm.
You've got 3 guys within 1 minute of you.
We're back with the post-race report. I haven't had quite enough time to fully gather all my thoughts because we're going to catch a 6 a.m. flight. So right now, just trying to think through the race, give you my thoughts, how things went. Overall, I'm proud with the day that I was able to do. From the beginning to the end, I had some good things and I had a lot of bad things, and a lot of things that I can take and learn. This is technically my rookie season as a pro doing 70.3 racing, so I got my licks in early. Hopefully next year things will be a lot different and I'll be able to produce some better results taking all the things I've learned and applying it to off season. So when I started in the swim, I was a little bit last minute getting into the water, and I got a quick little swim warm up in. I felt really pretty good in the really cold water. It was about 58, 59 degrees, but I was just in a bad starting place at the very beginning. I kind of couldn't really find a good place in the front row because I got there very last minute after still taking some time to warm up, but slotted on in, got behind some guys, and then I just kind of said, you know what, I don't want to be in the big fight here. I'm just going to kind of let the crowd go. And right when the gun went off, I misstarted my watch, so I pressed the wrong button and I didn't know what was really going to happen, so I kind of flipped over on my back, got it started the right way, and then got going and didn't lose a lot of ground, but I was definitely in the back of the group. And I stayed kind of on the far left. A lot of the faster guys were lining up on the far right, so I just said, like, the swim's going to be what the swim's going to be. I typically don't swim that good in a wetsuit because my pulling is a little bit weaker than it should be with swimming for how well I swim when I don't have a wetsuit on, which I think pulling in the swim makes a big difference when you're doing these longer distance open water swims. If you're a strong puller, you'll usually do pretty well compared to if you're not such a strong puller, but you can put a complete swim together, if that makes sense. So I started out, had no clue where I was. All I could see was a bunch of white water, a bunch of splashing. I was dodging people as I was trying to move through the crowd a little bit, but I got to that inside, went around the turn buoys just fine, and then I said I'm going to make some moves and just move up throughout the swim, which I did to a certain point until about the halfway point. Then I settled in right next to my friend Jaden, but I had no clue that was him until we got out of the water. And it was pretty smooth. I would say it wasn't like a hard swim for me. It wasn't an easy swim. I got around the last turn buoy, so we had a straight shot to get to the end, and I said, you know, I'm just gonna put my head down, I know where I'm headed, and I'm just gonna try to tug the group along. And so I did that a little bit, took over for like the last 300 meters or so, and really just tried to make up a little bit of ground to hopefully put us in a good position coming out of the water. Got out of the water, my fingers were pretty cold. I would say they weren't as bad as I expected them to be, maybe because I didn't get in the water so early to give it enough time to really get too cold. If you're in there for longer than 30 minutes or something like that, I think you have more of a chance to get really cold fingers. But I got out and could not get my wetsuit off for the life of me. I couldn't just get that initial back Velcro going. And then once I got it off and open, I was able to get it off the shoulders and arms pretty easy compared to what I have been dealing with, because I have to wear my watch on top of everything and then pull it off and over it. Got through transition pretty good, right with the group that I swam with. And while everyone was putting their shoes on, I decided to kind of press forward. I couldn't feel my feet anyways. So I waited till later to put my feet in my shoes. Was in a pretty good place. Had some really strong guys on the bike around me at the beginning. And then I ended up having my best hour power and best 30-minute power on the bike. I think the 30-minute power was like 300 flat. And then my hour power was 292. And then for the whole 2 hours, I had the best bike power I've had so far at 279 watts. Was hoping for a little bit more, but we'll take it. Still moving in the right direction. And then there's a lot of like back and forth, a lot of packs kind of coming through and then catching up. There's a lot of people doing some illegal things. Not going to call out any names, but it was really frustrating with people that were slipstreaming and people that were just blatantly doing a little bit of drafting, thinking they were having the 6 bike links, but it was pretty obvious it wasn't 6 bike links. There were some guys that got penaltied, and then they came out and I saw them literally drafting each other again while we are going around the racetrack, which was a really awesome part of this race. If you want to do Indian Wells, you get to go in this racetrack area, and it's really smooth, really twisty and turny, a lot of fun. The rest of the roads are kind of bumpy and rough, but that's a really nice part of this course. And then as you go kind of gradually uphill through the back half of the course, my power just kind of kept going down, and I really didn't do good with my nutrition. I had about like that much left in my 1 liter bottle of fuel that I use, so I'm estimating I only got 70 grams of carbs out of that, and I only took 2 gels, so I think I underfueled the bike a little bit for the power I was producing during that first hour. And so then the last hour it kind of tanked off. Not sure, I haven't looked through the data enough yet to see what that was. But it's definitely under where it should have been, and I could feel it in my legs. Haven't been doing my weight training that I did before Michigan, and I think that played a role. I could feel more muscle fatigue than I did in Michigan. Even though the power was just a little bit higher at this one, I don't think it would have had that much of an effect. And then on the run, I really felt that the legs were starting to die slowly throughout the whole thing. Because I started off, came in transition, had another bunch behind me that had caught me as I started to suffer in the last 6 or so miles. Got out of the transition and instantly found my run legs, and it was kind of like a nice flat to a downhill for the first mile. I took advantage of that, maybe a little too much advantage, as I split a 5:23 that first mile. And then I kind of said, okay, let's calm down, settle down. We went through the golf course, and I picked up a couple of people, but then later 1 or 2 of those guys ended up coming back by me, and I just started to fall apart after like mile 5 to 6. I could just feel things not settling, or I just feel that my legs were slowly dying off and falling apart. Muscles were getting really, really tired and fatigued. And I just went into survival mode of like, just don't walk, keep moving. I was pretty comfortable around the 6-minute mark, and then that 6-minute mark slid to 6:30, and I hung there. I was like, okay, don't go slower than this, you can maintain this. And then my left hip flexor was getting so tight to the point I was like, this thing might rip. Luckily it held up for the run, but I had a group of 4 that was chasing me down. I was like, I have to hold them off. And so I was like, if I'm doing 6:30s, they're probably catching me by about 20 seconds per mile, and we only have 2 miles left. So I just tried to pick it up and hold around 6, did that pretty successfully, and then managed to stay in that position. Finished 32nd overall, and not happy with the placement, not super mad or sad about it, because overall I feel good with the whole race. I just think there's a lot of things I could have done differently, and it's just, you just feel so close to the potential of performing better. You see the guys that are in front of you, even the guys that are on the top 15 to 10 and the 10 to the 5 mark, and I'm like, okay, they didn't do anything that I feel like is way out of my reach. So I think with taking some things in the off season, we can really come back really strong next year.
Okay, now that you've had a little bit of time to reflect on your race and on your season, I know you've mentioned that you didn't have exactly the end of the season that you hoped for, but what's kind of motivating you to continue training and continue pursuing triathlon professionally?
Triathlon is something that you see the potential and you see the self-development opportunity there in something that is multifaceted. There's so many ways you can challenge yourself, whether it's the technical side of the sport with 3 different sports in one, or it's the difficulty in the physical challenge that it presents. And it just is always, there's always something to motivate you that's, oh, I can do this or I can do that. And there's lots of things that I can take from this race where I really thought it was gonna go much better than it did. I thought in training a lot of things were better, but then you actually test yourself. You see if you can, as Lionel would say, transcend your training. And I didn't quite transcend the training, but I saw a bit of progress, but I still haven't put in like the big chunk of training, these long hours on the bike that are gonna all add up and become something, it's gonna build me into something better than what I am now. So I'm really looking forward to the challenge of what do we do with training to try to facilitate a lot of development over the next 4 or 5 months before the next set of races in the next season next year. There's just the challenge is what's driving me on, and just seeing how close I am and knowing that that's the difference between 30th, second place and getting into that top 10, maybe that 8th, that 9th, that 7th spot where I can just taste a little bit of the money in the pro field, which I think a while back I didn't think that was in my wheelhouse. I didn't know if I wanted to pursue triathlon in that high of a capacity or that high of a level, but now that I've decided to really pour into it, I'm excited to take this downtime this off season, really looking forward to just getting past it. I'm not quite in a burnt out position or in a place where I'm like, I just need this big break, but I am looking forward to getting back into the training groove and trying to push my limits, try to take on this challenge of improving yourself in triathlon, so I can really resonate with others in the fact of like, this is a great sport where we can challenge ourselves, and there's nothing really like it where you can push your limits or try to push your limits up so high that then the racing is what feels relatively easy compared to the training. And I'm a person that doesn't really love the training, so for those of you that are at home and you're grinding through the training and you're like, do I really like this sport? I was right there during the race thinking like, do I really want to keep doing this? This is not very fun right now. I'm in a lot of discomfort. And I was like, do I really want to keep doing this? Do I want to pursue this professionally and pour all my time into it? Or do I just want to like say, okay, that was a rough time, let me give up? Not that I would really be giving up, but I would just be tipping my hat to those that can and saying I'm a person that can't. But I think that's the fine line of, you have to define yourself by overcoming these challenges where your body and brain wants to put these blocks into place. I'm really motivated to say like, I'm gonna run these over, I'm gonna get past this, and that's what's gonna produce these great performances, and I'm not gonna stop until I reach that. So wrapping this all up, I'm really looking forward to the off season, the downtime. I'm hoping to bring some big things into next year, some big performances and great training, and hopefully some more useful content that is going to continue to grow this triathlon community. Thanks for watching the video, and hope you found some good takeaways that you can use and implement in your motivation and your training. Go out there and get it.